Now, it's almost 100 years since a man from Kettering bought up a patch of meadowland to build his dream, a park for the people. Charles Wicksteed had revolutionary ideas about how important it was for ordinary working-class children to have access to open spaces and play equipment. Well, his legacy was Britain's first ever play park, and it's a park which still claims to be the biggest free playground in Europe.
What you probably didn't realise when you were 3 or 7 is that all of this equipment is stamped with the name of one man. And guess what? He's from our neck of the woods. So, who is he?
Charles Wicksteed, born in 1847, was a pioneer of the playground. He's been called the inventor of children's play and has been credited with creating the first ever slide at his factory in the East Midlands. But is it true? Well, I want to find out.
Kettering is where it all started out, so that's where I've come. A true entrepreneur of the Edwardian age. Old Charlie boy. Initially started out servicing farm equipment and then moved into making early gearboxes. But it was his hydraulic hacksaws soaring through steel at an incredible rate that brought him instant success and some serious money.
But his passion was always play, and that would be his legacy. Mr. Wicksteed's former factory no longer makes hydraulic hacksaws. It makes much more exciting stuff like swings and seesaws. In fact, it's now Britain's biggest producer of playground equipment, and the chances are, if you're under 80, you've probably had fun on something made right here.
It's incredible the factory's on the same site as it was in Charles's day.
Yeah, absolutely, Des. 1876 it started. Many generations of families have worked here.
I'm meeting Stuart Wetherall, who's going to show me around. He's got some classic early photos.
Stuart, all these great photos, a little bit before my time, but what is this contraption?
That contraption, Des, is one of the very first swings made by Charles Wicksteed. We don't have the drawings for this, but we estimate its height to be 25 to 30 feet in height. You've got a child using it. He's at full extension on the swing chains. He's standing on the swing seat. There's no safer surfacing there. If he does fall, he's going to fall onto concrete or hard standing. You would not get away with that in the current.
There's no health and safety there, is there?
There's not a great deal, no. But I'm sure there's fairly good engineering, sound engineering processes that have been applied to the design of that.
So Charles Wicksteed, he really did revolutionise play. When it came to his imagination, there were no boundaries, were there?
No, absolutely not. He was clearly quite a creative innovator, entrepreneur, engineer-style guy. So when this started to appear in the local parks, this was probably the games computer explosion of the 90s. That's the equivalent of what these children were being exposed to.
So this is the image I like best. Your bottom, my bottom, and David Cameron's bottom have something in common.
Yeah, absolutely. We will have all gone down a Wicksteed slide, and if you take into account they were first manufactured in 1918, there's hundreds and thousands of these particular slides in the UK.
Staying in Kettering, I've left Charles's former workshop and moved just down the road to his fun factory. But I think Wicksteed Park looks a little bit different back then. Ah! When Charles first put plans in place a little over a century ago, this was one of the first leisure parks in Britain and the first to feature a playground like the one over there. The classic silver slide still takes pride of place. I think this will hold my weight. Way!
And just like battlefields and historic houses, this park has been listed by English Heritage as a site of importance. In fact, it's a national gem. I'm meeting Charles's great-grandson, Oliver, who helps run the park. We're catching a lift on the Wicksteed Express.
Oliver, here we are, Wicksteed Park. It's got a great feel to it. People walking their dogs, these massive open spaces.
Yeah, it's a very different kind of place. This is not like a normal theme park or a normal park you get in the centre of town. This almost 100 years of history of families enjoying themselves together.
And so you're trying to keep the ideals of Charles Wicksteed alive, yeah?
Very much so, very much so. When Charles Wicksteed, who was a very successful engineer, started to make a lot of money, he wanted to give something back, and he decided to build a park for the people, for his staff and people and kids who were playing in the streets, to have somewhere to come which was healthy, away from the pollution. He built sports fields, he built a lake, he built a railway, and created a whole new way of families enjoying themselves together on a Sunday. And keeping Charles's dream alive is our constant ambition.
This railway was Charles's last legacy and was to become the busiest little light railway in the country. Sadly, a week before it opened in 1931, Charles died of pneumonia.
But that's not the end of the story. The park and the factory were passed on to his sons. Both were eventually sold but kept the family's name. The park still draws big crowds and it's free to get in. Many return to relive their memories. People like 1940 sweethearts Roland and Joyce, who met here many moons ago.
Joyce, Roland, I can picture it now, a beautiful summer's day. The boats get closer. Roland, you leap across into her boat and give her a massive kiss. Is that how you met?
No. He was in a canoe.
And you celebrated your anniversary a week ago, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
61st? Yeah. If it wasn't for Charles Wicksteed, you guys would never have met.
No.
So there's a lot to thank him for, isn't there?
Oh, yeah.
There's no doubting Charles's generosity and his creativity. But was he really the inventor of the first children's slide? Remember those early photos? Well, play historian Lyndon Grove has been studying them. I want to ask her opinion.
Lyndon, you're the only person that can answer this burning question. Charles Wicksteed, the inventor of the children's slide, yes?
No, I think almost certainly the slide must have been invented by a grubby medieval child sliding down a fallen tree trunk somewhere. But what he really did for the slide was make it so popular that you wouldn't dream of having a playground without a slide.
Without him, play parks wouldn't be what they are now. We've got seesaws, we've got slides, we've got swings, and it's all down to Charles Wicksteed.
You're right, he is an absolute legend, and it's amazing to think that parks across the world were looking at these catalogues that he was sending out. This playground that we're in now was in the front of all the catalogues showing all the latest things that he had brought out, and the fame of it all was incredible. I think across the world, children's play was shaped by Charles Wicksteed.
Charles was fanatical about fun. He went from mending farm equipment to manufacturing on a massive scale. Among his many crazy ideas, it's said he can also take credit for this. The water chute, as it was known back then. Wicksteed's park in Kettering and his swings and slides have been shipped right across the world and thrilled children for the best part of a century. And being a big kid myself, I think it's time to have some fun.
So the next time you visit a play park and see a kiddie slide or a theme park and see a log flume, give a nod to our local legend Charles Wicksteed. Ah!